some maybe the cousins are after us or something. Maybe not. But anyway, let's get straight back to our interview, inshallah. All right. Sorry about that. So the last question that I asked, the political situation for Muslims in Japan. I imagine, my guess, Muslims in Japan are an ignored entity. They're not large enough in number. There's no history of some kind of terrorism for there to be them to be on the radar. Am I right in assuming that the Muslims in Japan are not on the radar?
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good to go.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, like still, so these are like clear statistics, but it says that I think around like 200,000 Muslims are living in Japan right now. But the majority of them are foreigners, and usually like temporary workers. And I think the Japanese Muslims are less than like 10,000 or something. Like it's really super like minorities. So like we don't have really serious like prejudice against Muslim right now, but yet because of this like, Israeli and Palestinian conflict, there was like one like Japanese like scholar who keep posting really like textbooks like definition like the Islamophobic like tweets. And also like there is like a new political party in Japan. Its name is like Conservative Party of Japan or something. It's like a far right wings like political parties. And the follower of these parties are started endorsing like her. And on the internet in surface, like I think day by day, I can see the like Islamophobia is now like forming in Japanese society, I think. And so now it's not in like kill later, but I can clearly see that in most of the Japanese now they are not welcoming the Muslim in their societies, like both like foreign Muslims and also like Japanese Muslims.
Okay.
So I think in the near future, I think we will be like otherized, and I think eventually, like we might lose like a place to like live or.
Okay,
yeah,
now
like
when they have antagonistic views towards Muslims, what's the basis?
Basis is that it's really like superficial like understanding about the it's really like typical Islamophobic things like for example like the Muslims they know how they are not disciplined, like they don't know how to clean the streets and also the houses, and also they will not show respect to the Japanese cultures. And because of this Israel-Palestine war, actually in Japan itself is a little bit it's not officially, I think it's especially still neutral, but in general Japan is taking the side of Israel. So I think the most of the Japanese citizens, they think Hamas is terrorists, and the people who are showing the empathy towards Palestine is also like considered terrorists in Japanese societies. So yeah. Actually, like now we are living a little bit like hard times right now.
So essentially, they're plugged into the the global conversation of things, and they have the same views as basically any European country, I'd say. Sounds like.
Yes.
How about Islam as the law, the Sharia? What is their perspective on the Sharia? So every culture is going to have different issues with the Sharia. What would be
Japanese perception of the Sharia?
Yeah, what would be the single ruling that is an issue for them, or is like a something that gets on their mind that they clashes with their culture? I mean, in the West, it's always the same thing. It's Age of Aisha, right? It's not even a ruling, but it's just something in the Sirah.
I'm really not sure, but I don't think that most of the Japanese they don't even know the word Sharia. And also, they didn't know about the concept of the like rule of law in general, like not only the rule of Islamic law, but like rule of like secular law. But many people think that if Islamic Empire, but there is no Islamic Empire right now, but Islamic conquer like Japan, like there will be no like freedom of speech, and there will be no freedom of like drinking alcohol, or there will be no like freedom of religion in some sense. But I think the most important thing is that, for example, since I'm Muslims, like when I go back to Japan, and when I have like discussions, like academic discussions, or like religious like dialogue things, is that many people ask me like what Islam is, or what is like life of Muslims. But I think the more important things can be like what is actually the being human in this like a secular like a states, especially like these territorial nation states. Because like many people are comparing about, and many people have like this prejudice like image about Islam's, like there is no like limited freedoms, or there is no freedom of speech. But for example, like I have a passport, Japanese passport, and I'm sure like Shape, you also have the American passport, right? American like passport. But for example, like number of the country you can enter, and also the number of country I can enter is different. And a Japanese passport is like one of the strongest passport in the world, and now it's like second or like third ranking. And for example, like I can enter Turkey like without visa, but if I want to travel to like Pakistan, I need to like apply for like a visa. Or if I want to like make Hajj as a Muslim, first thing I need to apply for the visa again to enter like Saudi Arabia, and you also the same. These as an American citizen, these a country you can visit without visa. These a country you have to apply for the visa to enter. And don't you see this is so against the human rights or the equalities of humanities?
Yeah.
Which is defined by like Western philosophy.
Yeah.
So like there is like actually like this kind like there is like this, we are living such kind of hypocritical societies. But I don't know why the people are still like targeting like Muslims and Islams. Like some of the situation yeah, this is actually the like a textbook definition of an apartheid. But we are not fighting. We don't think that this is like a threat to the humanities. And I believe that the study about Islam, or like studying about Sharia, or like or living as a Muslim, is offer us like good opportunities to rethink what kind of world we are living right now.
Yeah.
For example, even like for example, I am Muslims, but I want to make Hajj, and even Pakistan, even if I go to Saudi Arabia, like I need to have to carry like a passport, right? A passport issued by like a nation state, like Japan. But according to Sharia, if there is like a place called like Dar Islam, like I don't have to carry a passport to enter like Haramain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and even if I was like Christians or like a Shintoist, like Buddhist, like I don't have to ask like a Daura, like states to issue like a passport.
Yeah.
Like you can ask like a Muslim individual to issue like amana. And I'm not sure about the context of Shintoist or Buddhism, because there's like different opinions. But still, if I was a Christian, and I can ask individual to issue amana, and I can be like a Mustamin.
Yeah.
To stay in the place of Islam. So in that sense, so many people have like, so what I want to say is that many people have like so-called like shadow image about Sharia that is against the humanities. But first we must understand, this like secular like a nation state is the typical like state against the humanities. Like this is what I'm trying to say talk in front of the like non-Muslim like Japanese audiences. Like problem is not about our misunderstanding about Muslims, or misunderstanding about Islams, or our like low literacy about Islams. Like our major problem is that we don't know what kind of world we're living right now.
Yeah. So it sounds to me that the Japanese mental background, intellectual background, is purely a Western background. Whatever happened to the old original Japanese culture, be that Taoist or Shintoist or what have you?
I think you're right, especially in the field of academias, or I think we academicians are heavily influenced by the like Western like paradigm. But also in the same time, if you look at the more like practical aspect of the Japanese society, there are like lots of like beautiful traditional Japanese culture still remain. And also there are also like lots of like sincere Japanese Muslims, not Muslims, and just Japanese, who are trying to like preserve like beautiful Japanese cultures. For example, I myself, is the students of the Japanese tea ceremony, the Japanese tea ceremony. So this Japanese tea ceremony, in Japanese we call sado. Tea ceremony is one of the oldest Japanese culture. It started in 500 or 600 years ago. And it is the so if you say in English like a Japanese tea ceremony, it sounds like like a tea party, like it's like Portugal, the movement. But the tea ceremony is it's the method for the spiritual education in traditional Japanese society. So when we are preparing the tea, we will learn how to show respect to masters, and also how to show respect to the guests, and also when we are taking care of the tea utensils, we know how beautifully design the ordinary creature in this world. So in this way, we will try to learn the ideal balance between a macrocosmos and the microcosmos. And there are some Muslims who think, for example, I am organizing this tea ceremony workshop in Turkey or the other Muslim communities in the UK or even in Japan. And there are some Muslims criticizing me that I'm doing a bid'ah, or because this tea ceremony culture is not from the Islamic civilizations. And also, what makes me really surprised is that there are some people who even criticize me that I'm wearing this Japanese kimono. That there are some people who actually that guy he didn't have the bad intention, but he just respectfully advised me that don't try to wear a kafir clothes, clothes for the infidels. But first of all, this traditional Japanese kimono, this is not the special sacred clothes for a priest or a Buddhist or Shintoist. This is just ordinary daily clothes, which we were wearing before the modernization. I mean, even until the 60s or 70s, still Japanese are wearing this Japanese kimono. And also Sheikh, do you know what this inner kimono is called?
What the kimono is called?
Yeah, inner kimono.
The inside?
Inner.
No, what is it?
This inner kimono is called juban.
Jubba.
Juban, yeah.
Juban.
Some historians claim that this juban.
Yeah.
Originally, it was pronounced as jubba. Because this inner clothes is actually came from either from Portuguese merchant somewhere. There's someone who bring this jubba from the Islamicate world.
Ajib.
So actually, that I am not wearing the kafir clothes. I am wearing the Islamicate clothes, which had got inspiration from the Islamic civilization.
Yeah.
So this is why it's really important. When you're engaging with non-Muslim communities, in Japan or Korea or even America, we must not judge their culture without sincere evaluation.
Yeah.
Because they even might be even it's not Islamic. So there is in the word which is coined by the famous historian Marshall Hudson. That he used the word Islamic and Islamicate. And Islam is mainly limited to the dogmatic aspect of Islam, kalam or aqidas or fiqh. But it is Islamicate is more a cultural a manifestation of the Islamic values, which is shared by both Muslim and non-Muslims. And so even though, for example, the Japanese culture is not Islamic because we don't have deep interaction with the Islamic civilization, but there are some Islamicate traces even in the Japanese culture, and this kimono is one good example.
Yeah. And the kimono essentially is a robe with a belt.
Yes, this is it is. I can show you.
Yeah.
And also that I have to wear this belt.
Yeah. So the Persians also.
Sorry.
The Persians used to have these big belts, and the Turks used to wear them on their sirwal. Big sirwal with a big belt like this, it's almost a sash. Right? Big belt across. And then they put the jubba on top of that. So, I mean, it's not so far off.
Yes.
No.
And I personally believe this kimono is actually really suitable for Muslims.
Yeah.
According to adab. For example, I can also wear Western suits. but which can be like more Islamic because when I wear suits, when I'm teaching like in university, my it's a suits that shows my body line.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so tight. But this kimono, like it covers my body lines, and also the color is really decent. And even the inner kimono is called like a juban. It's a jubba, it's a Japanese like version of it, like a jubba.
Yeah. And yeah.
So I believe that if we study like Japanese culture really like deeply, actually like a Japanese Muslim, not only Japanese Muslim, but even like non-Muslim Japanese as well, like we can imagine like a new color of the Islamic civilization, which is called like Japanese like Islamic like a culture. Like this is my aim for the past like 2 or 3 years.
I think it's important for every indigenous culture where Islam is new, for people to recognize what's the baseline, the minimum viable product to be a Muslim, to be a pious Muslim in this culture. So make as few cultural changes as possible. And the Habaib, the scholars of Tarim, Yemen, they always say, they promote this while simultaneously promoting that certain number of scholars should preserve the sunnah as much as possible, close to what the Prophet exactly wore, so people could have a clue. But for the common folk, there should be a sense of, well, what is the very least that I have to do? Because if everyone dressed like that, then a common person would confuse what's custom from what's sunnah from what's obligatory, and say, oh, this Islam is just too much. There's too much I got to do here. I can't have a beard down to here and dress up in all this ethnic clothes. It's not my culture. So when we had Ali on Maliki Click, right, that we had that discussion too. Brandon from the Muslim Cowboy does that too, where he wears a cowboy hat, right? What they're trying to show is what is the minimum that a Muslim needs, right? And the minimum being is that your clothes isn't tight. That's an obligation. Your skin, your lines shouldn't be showing, and it should cover your aura, right? So that's the same thing that you seem to be doing, is showing what is the bare minimum that a person has to do to enter into Islam. And when a number of Muslims dress in a certain thing, it becomes Islamic in a sense. It becomes part of the big patchwork of Muslim culture, so to speak.
Yes, I believe so. And also, I even further believe that is that only Islam can offer the reason to the Japanese to preserve the Japanese cultures. Because if you're living in the modern societies, for example, which one is more efficient or even reasonable? Going to Zara or IKEA. I don't know. I can't name specific a company, but for example, which one is more efficient? Going to Zara and buy a reasonable price a shirt, or buying this traditional Japanese kimono, which at least cost $200 or $300 that you buy a new one. Of course, I'm sure 99% of the modern secular Japanese will go to in the modern fashion. But if you are Muslims, and if you are they believe in adab, if you are believing the importance of covering the aura, then I think Islam will give you reason to preserve this Japanese culture.
That's
because
true.
It's only Islam can understand this beauty of the practicing Japanese cultures.
And I want to say something else, that Islam comes to mind the feelings of the people around you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why the concept of urf, you could talk a lot about urf. Urf is customs. So when you're trying to bring something to somebody and you have parents, family that are Muslim, that are not Muslim, and you're trying to bring them Islam, it's wiser for you to preserve urf that is acceptable. And the urf is not carte blanche on urf. There is urf that is acceptable. There are customs that are acceptable and customs that are mulgha, urfun mulgha, a custom that is unacceptable, right? And that's how a Muslim would live, right? Where you want to imagine someone who's dropped into Japan, China, Oklahoma, and Texas, they enter Islam. Now you're going to start offending them by wearing a turban and everything. What is your point? Isn't your point to bring this matter closer to them, or is it to be tough and offend them? So that's part of Islam. Part of the Sharia is what are the priorities here? And so preservation of custom and urf is part of, it does have a place in our religion. It's one of the more subjective and flexible ones, but it is part of our deen. Now, speaking of dawah in Japan, how much does a person need to know about ancient Japanese beliefs? And could you tell us a little bit about the Shinto culture, beliefs, temperament, things like that? If someone was to go do dawah in Japan, like what even is that? What is the Shinto philosophy?
Like many people are asking about this question too. Like what would be like best? So how can we understand like Japanese religion to make like a proper like a da'wah? But I think that would be also like an important thing to explain Islam to like Japanese audiences. But again, I always remember this hadith like tuhaddithnas ala qadri uqulihim, and I personally interpret this hadith as that we have to understand in the context. We have to understand the environment that modern Japanese people who live in, and in most of the Japanese people, like religion doesn't matter anymore. And there are still beliefs in something, but they are not believing in really systematic manner. And also, I think, for example, I'm also like frequently visiting the UKs or the France or the Germany's, and also I visited quite a few times America as well. But I think in the European culture, this like making like a metaphysical argument is really important when it comes to like religion. For example, like I saw like so many like videos or like podcasts or like YouTube programs that the Muslims, these like Muslim preacher and also like a Christian like a priest, and who are trying to like be debating which one is like a correct belief. But I think that in some like as like Japanese, the first is it sounds like so like Western cultures who try to like debate something, especially about like metaphysical like things, because and I have remember like when I was reading like a classical tasawwuf book, there is like two ways to reach the hakika. The one is like nuzul, I mean descending, and another way is like uruj, like ascending. And this like nuzul means like more like a metaphysical like reasoning, that how the one pure like existence Allah had created the whole universe and creatures. And this like uruj is more like a practical aspect, that what kind of like practice like we can do to like a sense to reach like a ma'arifa, like a ma'arifa of the to like taste like a tawhid, to experience the like a sense of like tawhid. And when it comes to that, Japanese are like not like nuzul people. It's more like uruj people. Like they want to know like what is the practice of Islam. Like what is the beauty of practice in Islam? For example, like no matter how you try to talk about like oneness of the God, like tawhid of Allah, or the like nubuwah, like prophecy, I think it might not be so convincing to them because like this is not our culture. Like,
it's just a theory to them.
Yes. It's just like only remain as a theory. But if you talk about like, for example, like beauty of like paying zakat, or like how the Muslims are practicing like fasting, like some during Ramadan, or that if I show like visual image about Hajj, then all kind of people like gathering in one place, like Africans or like or Asians or like Caucasians, like all kind of one place, and to feel the like solidarities of communities. Like Japanese people are more influenced by the kind of practical like aspect.
So that's a good point, and I think I would say that's almost universal. Regular people, they're going to make a change if they see other regular people living better than them, right? And the problems that they have are not shared by their solutions to those problems with that other group. So that leads me to a simple question. Hypothetically, I'm a guy who's got a business trip in Tokyo, Japan. Where do I go to get a sense of community? I could put my hotel room next to there, go, for Maghrib and Isha and talk to some people. have a sense of community. What is one of the stronger communities of Muslims in Tokyo?
In Tokyo, there is the masjid called Tokyo Jami. Jami means masjid in Turkish language. Like it is like, I don't think it's directly run by the Turkish religious affairs, but still like closely associated with the Turkish ministry of the religious affair in Turkey. There's like Turkish imam, he's really sincere, and also and now this Tokyo Jami is not only famous as like a masjid. It became like one of the most like popular like a tourist like a place in Tokyo right now. So they every week, I think more than hundreds, hundreds of people are visiting Tokyo Jami, and every week, and almost every week there is the ceremony of the conversion. Like the Japanese are converting Islam in Tokyo Jami. So if you go to the Tokyo Jami, that you can see the big communities. And what is more beautiful about this Tokyo Jami is that if you visit Tokyo Jami, that you can meet like lots of second generation Muslims, like second generation like Japanese Muslims. Like for example, I'm from the Japanese, but right now we have like Pakistani like Japanese Muslims, like Indonesian Japanese Muslims, or like Indonesian who was born and raised in Japan. Or the Malay Japanese Muslims, or the Palestinian like Japanese Muslims, or the Egyptian Japanese Muslims. Like they are like creating like new generations. Like they are like future of the Japanese communities, because right now in general the population is like declining in Japan. Like we're not getting married and we're not having babies. But I think the only like Muslim community is like growing. For example, I was a Christian before I became Muslims.
Yeah.
But I think the average age of the Christian community in Japan is like over 65 years old. Like it's becoming the old communities. Like it's only becoming like a religion for the I don't know the like a curing house or something. But I don't believe that the Muslim community is the fastest like growing community in Japan. But still, I can say that the Muslim community in Japan is like youngest like in religious community in Japan. And I think this is really beautiful things.
I read recently you could buy a house in some of the suburbs for $25,000 because the population is just dropping so badly.
Yes, like I think many like Japanese like youth are like moving to like big cities.
Yeah.
And now like many like the villages, small towns are becoming like a ghost town in Japan.
That's insane. The idea that some maternity wards have shut down and sent their nurses to a central maternity ward, right? Because there was one hospital, they recorded that there was on average a birth a week. So they're like, why do we have a ward, right? So they combined 4 hospitals. They all went to the biggest ward, right? And everyone who wants to have a baby in Tokyo or in this town would just go to that ward, right? With that hospital. You might have to drive a little bit, but that's the only one you can go to. So it's insane how that population is dipping so badly in Japan. I think that's probably its biggest crisis going forward, right?
Yes, I think
population decline.
Yeah, this is a humanitarian crisis. So that's why I'm saying like for Japanese, like they don't have to understand Islam. First they have to understand what kind of problem they're facing in Japanese communities.
Yeah.
And then we Japanese can say that Islam can be like a life-giving like force or life-giving energy for the Japanese societies. That in terms of like cultures, in terms of societies, and in terms of like politics. Like this is what I keep saying.
Yeah. And it's amazing how humans' problem has gone back down to like the most basic problem of just existing, right? And it's almost like we gouged ourselves with selfishness. I mean, the science and tech did so well to give people a good life in certain countries that people can't stand the idea of directing attention to others. I mean, we have now the concept of dinks, right? You know what a dink is, Omar? Yeah? You guys know what a dink is? Dual income, no kids. Boyfriend and a girlfriend, right? Both they got a dual income and they've decided no kids, right? So that they could just do whatever they want. And so the cultures you become, you're indulging to the point that you cannot even share your time. It pains you to share your time with a kid. And you still have a problem if you have one kid, 2 kids, you still have a problem because you're not growing at that point. And what is it that made Japan, Japan is one of the leaders in population decline? What's the source? What's the reason?
I think like the same reason in America. I think they will think that this just having baby is just like basically they are losing their monies.
Yeah.
And also they have to enjoy life, and they think they are like babies of children, so like obstacles for the happiness.
Yeah.
So I think the work problems of this modern culture is like we like modern people, we always tend to stay in like a comfortable zone.
Yeah.
But especially when you study about tasawwuf or the Islamic cultures, actually, not only the Islamic culture, but also the traditional Japanese culture as well. Like the culture that help us to get out from the comforting zone, to get opportunity to become like a mature.
Yeah.
And when I see like in modern Japanese society, I strongly feel that now the less and less people are like mature, and more people are like claiming their rights. They're claiming that how the correct they are, and how they're like strong they are. And they're always trying to prove something.
Yeah.
But now I'm in Istanbul, and what makes me really touched that there is the tekke, Zawiya, Sufi lodges in Uskadar, Asian side of Istanbul. It is called like Uzbekler tekkesi, the Uzbekler tekkesi, Zawiya or Uzbekiya.
Okay.
The Sufi lodges for Uzbek people. They are coming to Istanbul when they're going to the Hajj. They're resting a few like mosques, and then going to the Haramain. And still, this Uzbekler tekkesi is run by the like Muslim educational like Waqf. And when I enter this Uzbekler tekkesi, there is one famous like Islamic calligraphy. It say like hitch. Hitch. Hitch means Persian and also like Turkish, but it means like nothing. And I ask the person who working in this Uzbek tekkesi, like what is the purpose of hanging this Islamic calligraphy on the wall of Sufi lodges? And he answered me that this is the aim of the spiritual education of Islam. Like in modern education, that we always try to prove something, that we are trying to become like someone, that we are trying to produce like something.
Yeah.
But in a traditional like cultures, like we are taking this education to become like a nothing, or embracing that we are nothings. And this like the decline of the population is actually related to this as well. That now the more people try to like prove something or try to make them like happy. So that's why they think that all the environment is like an obstacle to their happiness.
Yeah.
But in the end, the ultimate aim of the humanity is like that we while we're living right now, to pass to transmit knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the next generation. We are just like a vehicle.
Yeah.
Like if we don't make if we cannot get married, if we don't make like children, or like if we're not investing on the younger generation, then our community will disappear.
You'll disappear. And I like to put it like this: you have your own life. You only have your own life thanks to other people who are not selfish. So there is a percentage. I don't know what the percentage is. 1/3, maybe 1/4, 1/2, where you owe it to the community, okay, at large, to think about the future, to advance this thing called human beings, and Muslims on top of that. And the way to do that is by prioritizing your family over your career. Nobody says, hey, well, some of the dinks do, but most people say, well, I got my career. It's so important. I help so many people in my career, right? Very few people say, no, I don't want to have kids because I want to indulge. Most people will justify it to themselves. And they'll say, I got a very important career. I got a very important year coming up. And they keep postponing marriage. So careerism, the way I look at it, it's the biggest enemy to family is careerism. Like, can't imagine what I would have done. All of us can say the same thing. What would I have done if I didn't have to have a family and I could work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? What kind of career would we all have? Yeah, but you'd also be very miserable too, right? And what kind of old age would you have? What kind of middle of life would you have, right? So we don't think about that. On top of that, we don't. That's all about ourselves. Imagine then the whole community. If we all did that, what kind of community would we have? We'd have empty masajid, right? We'd have no community left. So everyone's got to realize that career is the enemy of family. And the way I look at it, both men and women have to take that, but women have to take it even more, right? Because they're the physical bearers of the children. And they have a bigger obstacle, so they have to have a greater belief that having a family is more important than having a career. Guys have to have that because when they don't raise their kids turn out rotten. You might as well have not have kids. If a guy doesn't raise his son, more important than raising his daughter, in my opinion. But in any event, I now like to ask you a question that when a young Japanese Muslim comes up to you and say, I just converted to Islam, I need to make a YouTube playlist of Japanese lectures. Who do you give them?
Japanese lectures?
Yeah, I need my Japanese playlist of lectures, of talks, of classes, all in Japanese. Islam? Who is the scholar out there, the da'i, even if he's not a scholar, but he's a da'i, a person of dawah, an imam who's out there speaking in Japanese?
Okay. There are some like famous like Japanese like da'i. For example, like Sheikh Ahmad Maino. He's working, very close to Tokyo. And he's reinvesting on child education. And I'm not sure that he's uploading his lecture on the YouTube video. But in general, for example, like now in Istanbul, I have more than 5 Japanese Muslim students. Like, whenever I found the Japanese Muslims are having kind of like challenges in Japan, I always encourage them to come to the Muslim countries. For example, like now I'm based in Istanbul, so I am encouraging my students to come to Istanbul and stay like 1 or like 2 years to study like Islams.
But what if they don't speak Arabic? They only speak Japanese. No English.
They speak Japanese and Turkish and Fusha. They still study Fusha as well. And the reason, and there's a reason for this, is that, for example, now if you ask a TikTok or the YouTube, that you can watch like millions of videos or lectures about Islams. But in Turkish, these words are sohbet. In Arabic, we call sohbet.
Yeah.
Sohbet. It means like companionship, and it means like being together. And we must not forget that Islam is not like a digital like a content that you can download from the internet, and once you install it, you can become a perfect Muslim or something.
Yeah.
Like living as a Muslim like process.
Big process. Yeah.
We cannot learn Islam through, how can I say, like reduced like image of humanity who's talk about the Islam or practice or the showing kind of practice of Muslim. Like you need to learn like Islam through like fragile and like human or imperfect like human, who are also trying to seek the path of Islam.
Yeah.
This is called like mastership and discipleship. The mastership and discipleship. For example, like have you ever watched like new Star Wars, like episode 7, episode 8, episode 9? The new series of Star Wars?
No, what is that again? Say again.
Star Wars, the new series of Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars. No, I saw a couple of the movies, like the last movie that they said this is the last one. I did see that one, yeah.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of Star Wars, so I watched them from the episode 1 to episode 9.
Yeah.
There's a problem about new series of Star Wars. Like I like the old series, but the new series was really disappointing because these are protagonists called Rey.
Yeah.
Female like protagonists, like characters, and in episode 8, I was hoping that she will become the Jedi. This kind of like a traditional like a fighter.
Yeah.
Who are who have like lightsaber and doing lightsaber like boom boom like.
Yep.
So I was hoping that she will she will find her own like master to start like a training.
Yeah.
And in episode 8, there was a character called Luke Skywalker, and he's like a legendary like a character in the old series.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that he will become the master. But in the end, he didn't teach anything to this Rey, the female protagonist. But yet, she became suddenly the strongest like a Jedi in the history of the Star Wars series. And
that's the the millennial way.
I interpret that this is like a reflection of the identity politics in the Western like culture. That if you define yourself as like a best, then you can become like a best.
Yeah.
And I think there are like including that even we Muslims, we have this kind of like a tendency, like we are infected, kind of like identity politics without knowing it.
Yeah.
So that if you have like a correct book, that if we access the correct videos, and if we're watching like a correct lectures, and then we can become like right Muslims.
Yeah.
It's not like we are also like imperfect human beings. Like we will make millions of mistakes in our life.
Yeah.
And also but if we're only accessing so-called like 100% like a correct knowledge about Islam, like we don't know how to rebuild ourselves when we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we see in the young Japanese Muslim community as well. Like they think, for example, like there are some hardship, and they couldn't like they didn't like make prayer, or they have to end up like drinking alcohol because of these like pressure from the societies. And then when they make like even a tiny bit of a mistake, they will become depressed and they will leave the community. But actually, it's not like everything that you have made, that not only the beautiful things, that even like ugly things, that this might be could be like a lesson to become like a better like Muslims. That if only you can make it like a tawbah.
Yeah.
But you will never learn this like the whole spiritual like journey of being Muslim just accessing like a data. Like you need your own like sensei. In Japanese, we call the master a sensei. Like a master.
Yeah.
So what we have how to restore in these Muslim communities, not only Muslim community and Japanese society, is the existence of the mastership, and also like a discipleship.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree. That's one of the biggest problems with the new generation is the lack of sabr. Like there's no sabr, and there's no culture of this. So they need to see their parents doing that, right? They need to see their parents honoring somebody and accepting their tutelage over the span of decades, and in order to realize that, to believe that, and what I think one of the reasons behind this is that the nature of the world today is a world of tech. Tech, science, and tech, it prizes innovation, and rightfully so, right? So going back and mimicking, the internet of the past or the software code of the past is useless. You need to go innovate. People then take that ethic and then apply it where it doesn't belong, such as anything that has to do with transmission or expertise. Both of those things, they just require years of dogged, almost boring repetition of the same thing, right? And that's why I think in the modern era, people have a hard time with the idea of anything taking a long time, right? Everything. They want 7-minute abs. People don't want to put in the time and the effort and the humility. So that's something that you have to go uphill in fighting that battle.
Yeah, it's true. So that's why coming back to your questions, like I'm always like encouraging the Japanese when they ask me that what is the like best like lectures, what is the best book about Islam. The first thing you have to take your time to find out which one is the best books for you, like because the people always expecting like a clear answer of something. But maybe like when you can order some like books about Islam in Amazon and you read it, and maybe you find out that it's not like helpful for you. But this in the end, this is also good experiences. That this shows that not every person knows about Islam, and there is some like books which is not useful for them, but maybe that books might be useful for the other people. And I think right now in the modern societies, like more and more people, even including me, like we are less. I mean, as you said, that we are losing the sabr. To accept, the complexity of the humanity and the complexity of like ilm, like knowledge as well. For example, like I'm sure you also have. I remember you studied at SOAS or different.
I did. I did.
For example, I did my PhD in Kyoto University, and also I'm working at a university, but the syllabus, like university syllabus system. For example, if you read the syllabus. Right now, I don't know, but there's a huge pressure for university that we have to write the so details about the lecture or the courses. That not only about the name of the courses, but that we have to write the aim of the courses, and also that we have to write the outcome of the courses.
That's ridiculous.
Like, that we have to like guarantee the outcome that the student can get if they take this course. For example, if there's a lecture about Middle Eastern, like introduction to like Middle Eastern studies or introduction to like Islamic studies, like teacher have to write in the outcome. Then after this taking this course, the students can get like a firm like knowledge about like Islamic studies or Middle Eastern studies. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, some people can get like a good knowledge by taking the courses, but some people may not. I mean, this is so based on like really superficial, like more like superficial, like engineering like mindsets.
Yeah.
Like if you write down the code, then and then human can work like a machine.
Yeah.
There's no bug in it, but it's not like maybe when they take the course, maybe it not be the helpful at all at that time. But maybe in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, or even like last very minute before they die, maybe they will find out some kind of modifier of the courses. That you don't know what kind of knowledge can be like helpful for his or like her life.
And that's where sometimes the best education is go hang out with that guy. Apprenticeships. What is an apprenticeship? Oh, this guy knows how to run this kind of a business. There's no syllabus. The syllabus is hang out with him, spend time with him on the job and observe, do what he tells you to do. You'll grow up the ranks until he earns your trust and he gives you bigger responsibilities. Those apprenticeships. And do you remember Theranos?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear in Turkey about the whole Theranos scandal? Theranos is essentially a company that had hundreds of millions of dollars of investment and claimed that with a drop of your blood, they can do like 35 blood tests, right? With one drop of your blood, something like that. And that they have some kind of a device, and that device will churn out the results of like multiple blood tests instead of you having to go take multiple shots. Now, here's the amazing part. The amazing part is that the journalist, he's a medical journalist, medical tech journalist, who figured out that she was a fraud, and the founder was a fraud. She never had any such device. It was a theory in her head. She collected the money, and she even started getting into the business, but she would take a drop of blood, then send it to traditional labs, and then give people the result, because she never had a machine. So here's the amazing thing about how Elizabeth Holmes, thank you for Chocolate Wallow, was uncovered to be a fraud. The guy said that in tech, the innovators are always young. They're not entrenched. They're able to think outside the box. But in the medical field, because there are human lives at stake, there's higher risk. Innovators of anything new in the medical field tend to be in their 40s and 50s, right? That's when they earn trust. And that's when they were able to give something back to society, because it's risky. Whereas there's no risk in an app. When the app doesn't work, no one died, right? So he was like, oh, she's way too young. How is she innovating in the medical world, right, at that young age? And that's when he started to actually start prodding and asking questions, and you could see a whole bunch of documentaries on Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos and the fraud that she committed. So that goes back to what you said, is that, like, what was her name? Rey? Whoever was what's her name? Yeah, whoever the Jedi girl was, is that she becomes the greatest Jedi without putting in a minute of labor. There are no years of waiting, of work, right? And that's a scam. You're scamming the viewers. You're scamming people into imagining that great results can come out of no work, right? And that just doesn't exist in the world, right? And all that came into the question, like of what you said on there may not be a quick YouTube list, but that's not how Islam is practiced. Islam is practiced by living with people, with Muslims over years, and slowly marinating, right? And your bad qualities come out one at a time in the presence of those people. I'd like to turn it now to the audience on YouTube. what questions do you have for Professor Yamamoto, who's given us from his precious time? It's now evening there in Turkey. It's probably past Maghrib time. 10 p.m. Oh. So let's see. Let's take 2-3 questions from our audience here. All right. First one. Is there a concept of Ihsan or spirituality in the original Japanese culture?
Ihsan, yes, I think so. I mean, it's not like completely like same with Islam, because in the concept of Ihsan, of course, related to the Islam itself. But no, it's not about Ihsan. But there's a really like a strong like a word I'm really influenced when I'm reading the book, Kitab al-Futuwa, when I'm translating this book in Japanese. It's the word called like ethar.
Mm-hmm.
Ethar, it means like altruism, like sacrifice yourself for the others.
Generosity.
I mean, yeah, generosity, and especially this altruism, and that was once the most important like philosophy of the akhlaq in traditional like Japanese culture. But now we are like we have lost, and this is one of the reasons why I have translated this in the Islamic classics to the Japan into like Japanese languages, like this like Islamic like terminology, so not Islamic terminology, and also Islamic like values might give like a new opportunity for like Japanese reader to remember our like beautiful like a tradition. Like if sun might be also an option, might be the one, and also the ethar, and also the beauty of like a tauba, repentance. And when it comes to the Ihsan, I mean, I'm sorry, it's really off the topic, by the way, but instead of just talking about Islam, or it's talking about the faith, but I'm also trying to introduce Japanese audiences like what kind of creativity that we Japanese Muslim can offer to the Japanese societies. And I personally, I interpret like this is my endeavor of like Ihsan, as like being a Muslims. Like I am designing so-called like Japanese Islamicate like art and handicraft. And this morning, I have designed. So can you see this?
Yeah. Oh, that was you.
Yes. So I draw. This is the Japanese translation of the Surat al-Fatiha in the Quran.
Someone sent me that this morning.
Yes, I use the traditional like Japanese like handwriting, like calligraphy.
Yeah, bring it over a little bit more.
Yes, yes.
Other side. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Wow, that's beautiful. Very beautiful.
So, and when I designed this, like I'm really convinced. Like I don't see any. For example, there are some like far right wings like Japanese that they saying that we Japanese Muslims or Muslims, like foreign Muslim, they are bringing some kind of like impure like a contamination to the Japanese societies. Like they're trying to destroy they are like beauty of the Japanese cultures.
Yeah.
But when I'm designing this, I see some kind of beautiful harmony. Is like beautiful harmony of the Japanese culture and like Islamic like a culture, like or Islamic spiritualities.
Yeah.
And not only handwritings, but so I'm a student of tea ceremony. So I am designing so-called Islamicate like tea ceremony utensils. And can you see this?
Edeb. This is a Turkish saying. Edeb.
Yeah. Like Edeb Yahu. This is like Turkish like a calligraphy.
Yeah.
It is like this Yahuwah is about Allah, and Ya is like a calling upon. You invoke is an invocation. Like it means like you're asking Allah to like give like adab to humanities, and this is the I am working with the traditional like Japanese artisan to design this traditional like handicraft because now less and less Japanese people they're buying traditional Japanese handicraft.
Yeah.
They are buying like furniture from IKEA or somewhere like before somewhere from a big like shopping mall, but and also like, even some not only Japanese but Muslim are like teasing me that why I'm spending like so much money on creating like handicrafts and like Islamic handicrafts because there's more like reasonable prices handicrafts or sell in a shopping mall. But I'm telling those people, like, which one is more like Islamicate, or which one is more like a Muslim like way of living?
Yeah.
Like buying like mass-produced like handicraft from the shopping mall, or like visiting like a traditional Japanese artisan and explaining the Islamic spirituality and how much I respect Japanese culture as the Japanese citizen, and designing this traditional like handicraft which is inspired by Islamic spirituality, and using this utensils carefully for every day. I think that is like more like a Muslim like way of living.
Very
Or at least
smart.
like Islamicate like way of living.
It's more holistic that way.
Yes, yeah. And in this way, like it might don't have like big impact, but I think but at least I'm quite sure that this Japanese artisan who are working with me have the opportunity to digest Islamic spiritualities by like designing this handicraft. Like instead of watching like Islamic like YouTube channels or like TikTok like videos, but because this is about experiences. So like when it comes to Ihsan, like I rather say that Japanese don't know much about the concept of Ihsan. It's not about Islam, and also I'm not sure we have like correct transferable like word in Japanese culture. But if Japanese can embrace like beauty of Ihsan, then they can produce like more beautiful things for the Japanese societies.
Someone is asking here now, this Japanese tea ceremony, does it take place in someone's home? You invite people to them, like how does it work exactly?
Oh, this Japanese tea, actually, like if you invite me to where are you living in the state?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. For example, if you invite me to New Jersey, I can also do tea ceremony for you.
Okay, good.
So usually like it's done in like at home or either the traditional like tea room. But there is a problem about like ordinary like Japanese tea ceremony. It's not a problem, but this like Japanese tea ceremony, like contemporary Japanese tea ceremony, is like heavily influenced by Zen Buddhism. So like there is, for example, if there is like hanging scroll, like hang on the wall, they usually like that hanging scroll, you can see like a calligraphy which is based on like Zen Buddhism philosophy. And so this is one of the reasons why some of the Japanese parents they hesitate to send their kids to the like in Japanese tea ceremony like classes. So that's why, like I personally I have a really sincere like a master who understand the sensibilities. But in the future, I want to design like traditional like a tea room, which is like designed for like Muslims, or tea room to design to introduce like Islamic spiritualities. So when I'm organizing this my Japanese tea ceremony like a workshop, I'm not using like Zen Buddhism hanging scrolls, and I'm also using like handicraft, which have kind of like un-Islamic like elements. But instead of it, I'm personally like designing. This also this hanging scroll is I have designed this hanging scroll.
Mashallah.
Yeah, like I'm and I hang this hanging scroll on the wall for this tea ceremony. And this flower is called higambana. Higambana. Higam means akhira, and bana is a flower of the afterlife. So in the past, in Japanese, when they see this flower, they always like reminisce. They're always remembering about the afterlife according to Zen Buddhism. But I personally reinterpret this flower that we Japanese Muslim, like we can remember about the Islamic like akhira. Like when we are like in the DC and this flower. So that's why I write down this Arabic calligraphy called alif. And in my interpretation, this alif like implies like Allah. So this is how this. I personally call this project a semantic reconstruction, like semantic reconstruction. So even though we are living in like non-Muslim countries, and even though we are surrounded by so-called seemingly non-Islamic contents, like we can bring a new interpretation to like Japanese cultures. And this is what actually like Malay Muslims and Indonesian Muslims and also Chinese Muslims did. For example, like they do you know the word the book called Han Kitab? Han Kitab.
Never heard of it. No.
Oh, Han Kitab is called like Han means Chinese and Kitab means Kitab. This is another like beautiful things about Islamic civilization. Like whenever you go, if there is a Muslim communities, the book is always called kitab.
Okay.
The book is always called kitab, especially the Islamic books. For example, in China as well, the Islamic book is called kitab. In the Malay or Indonesia, is the Islamic book is the kitab. And Turkey, the book is called kitab. So I think in American Muslim communities that you can also use the word kitab, like for the Islamic classics. Like that you can use this kitab as like the English terms.
Yeah.
So this Han kitabs means like Islamic classic book written in like Chinese characters. So Han means Chinese and kitab means book.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And when we observe this book, there are some like vocabulary or terminologies which are used by the Confucianism or like Buddhisms, and some like researchers say saying this is like historical like evidence that how like Chinese Muslim try to integrate like a Confucianistic or Taoist or Buddhism like worldview and Islam. But personally, I don't believe that that interpretation. I personally think that this is actually the process of semantic reconstruction. So even though they borrow this word, when Muslims use this, they have put like Islamic like meaning to it. So this is borrowed the format, but content is always Islamic. So there is a huge difference between like compromising with the other religions, and also they bring the new creativity.
Yeah, and bending
like
with
local terminologies or local cultures.
Yeah. If it was otherwise, you wouldn't go and find the ethnic, even the scholarly clothes of every nationality is different. So
yes.
In Africa, the alim, the scholar, will be wearing different clothes in West Africa than North Africa, than East Africa, than Yemen, than Iraq, than Indonesia and Malaysia. So that's why what we have is a deen that has roots and then a very strong trunk that doesn't move, but then you have branches that sway, right? That sway back and forth. And that's a flexibility, the balance between where we're flexible and encourage movement and what is inflexible and immovable and should never change.
Yes, I said, and also I might be a little bit arrogant, but I think my tea ceremony workshop is one of the most creative like Japanese culture among the other like Japanese culture, like, because I put the Islamic interpretation in it.
And what do people do when they go for the? Sorry to interrupt. What do they do when they go to this tea ceremony?
So in this tea ceremony, so right now, most of the Japanese like practitioner tea ceremony, they are of course they are sincerely studying about the etiquette of the Japanese the tea ceremony, how they serve and how they prepare like in matcha, green tea, and how they try to show respect to the guests. So, but since it's already like established like a cultures, like there is no like new creativity in it. There's a repeating routine. I strongly respect this like tea ceremony cultures. But if we look at the history of tea ceremony, in early period of the tea ceremony, there was also like in tea ceremony inspired by Zen Buddhism, but also there was a Christian tea ceremony too, like a Catholic tea ceremony. In the 15th century and the 16th century in Japanese society, there was the Japanese Christian called Kirishitan. And they were like samurai, like lords who converted to the Christianities. They were called like Kirishitan daimyos. And they were like practicing this tea ceremony to like contemplate the spirituality of Christianities. And there was also tea ceremony for the merchant, and also like tea ceremony for samurais. So there was like a diversity of this. So tea ceremony itself is just like a format, like an iPhone. So in the end, this is like just like technologies.
Yeah.
So what is important is that now what we will do by using these like technologies. So like my tea ceremony is that also I am introducing the like etiquette and also the spiritualities of the tea ceremony. But I am also at the same time by using this tea like tea container, or by like or through like showing this like calligraphy, I'm trying to introduce like Islamic like spiritualities through like arts. So this is like one the characteristic of my like tea ceremony like workshop.
Now, when I go to the tea ceremony, I'm like a guest, essentially. I sit down, and then I'm a guest. I start receiving, the tea, and then is there something else?
Actually, it's really difficult to explain with words, but there is the one video shot by the Blogging Theology. There's a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I show, the Ustaz Paul Williams, my tea ceremony.
Oh, okay, you did. Okay, good.
So if there's something interesting tea ceremony, you can Google like tea ceremony, blogging theology, Naoki Yamamoto, and you can see it. Or maybe you can just Google like Naoki Yamamoto tea ceremony Islam.
Okay, good. Now, we're running out of time, but I didn't ask one of the very important questions that I know some people really wanted me to ask. Okay. The Japanese cartoons. They're so, remind me? Anime. They're so influential, and I still cannot get my head around how they get such a cult following. Right? Why anime versus anything else? And secondly, there are some people that try to use anime as a form of dawah. Like Sohaib's company is all about that. So could you mind expanding on exactly what's going on with the pull? Why is anime such a pull? Why does it have such a pull?
First of all, I must say that I'm huge like otaku about anime. I'm anime otaku. So I'm a huge nerd of Japanese anime. I have already watched at least 1,000 Japanese animes, and also I read the millions of the Japanese manga. And I have noticed that there are so many like Muslims, and not only Muslim in the US or in Europe, there are lots of the Muslim fans of anime in a Muslim country as well, in Turkey as well. And at first, like for example, the first time I came to Turkey was like 13 years ago, and I'm so surprised that I was studying in the traditional Muslim educational institute, and we are studying Nahu and Sarf.
Yeah.
That we are memorizing, Nasara Yansur, Nasara Huwa Nasr thing. But I have noticed that all of my old classmates, they're watching Naruto, Japanese anime, Japanese like ninja anime.
Yeah.
So the people who are studying this traditional like ulum, Islamic studies, and at the same time they're huge fan of Japanese animes.
Yeah.
And I asked my like classmate that because I was so shocked because like this traditional like Tarabatul ilm and anime like otakus, like I thought these two different like separate like entities.
Worlds, yeah.
Yes, but I asked them why they're watching like this in the Japanese anime, especially Naruto. And one of our friends like said to me really interesting things that when they watch like the American movies or the American TV series, they become really uncomfortable because in American TV series or anime, like in the movies, there is always like identity politics.
Yeah.
It means like they always try to define themselves. Like for example, in Star Wars, about this Rey, she's always to define herself. Or even the Marvel hero comic series as well. Like usually there is no scene of training, there is no mastership and discipleship. But what is saying that if they define themselves really clearly, they can become the strongest villain character in the series of like Marvels or any other things. But in Japanese anime or manga, this identity politics is not an important like topic.
Yeah.
Like what they emphasize on is, for example, these anime called Demon Slayer or the Jujutsu Kaisens or the other animes. Like they have, first of all, they emphasize on training, like rectifying themselves, like tarbiyah.
I see. So there's a message in it.
And
okay, that's good.
When they're trying to train themselves, they always study with their masters, sensei. They murshid. So my friend told me that if you analyze, the structure of the Japanese anime manga, there are some like a common like a message, so-called Islamicate message. This is not Islamic, but the Islamicate, the common like values like between like Islamic spirituality and also like Japanese cultures. And about the other possibilities or potential of the introduce or using this manga as a medium to introduce like Islam to the audiences. For example, there are some uh, uh, people who are creating this like so-called Islamic anime. For example, I think there was one company in Saudi Arabia. They created an anime called like the Journey.
Yeah.
I think this anime is about battle or the fear, battle by elephants. And I personally, by the way, also believe that this manga or using visual image can be like one of the options to introduce the Islam, not only for non-Muslim audiences but also Muslim audiences. So I don't know, have you seen this before, but
Let's see.
have you seen this somewhere?
Move it over a little bit. Yeah, Japan. Oh, move it over.
Oh, this is not Japan. It's called Bajian.
Oh, Bajian. I thought that was Japan. Move it over a little bit so the audience can see.
Yes.
Yeah, pull it out a little bit so everyone can see.
Okay. Bajian.
I thought that said Japan.
not Japan actually.
Bajian. Now, who is that? Is that a character that you made?
Yeah. So I drew these characters. I call this series was Hijabi Ninja series. Hijabi Ninjas.
And Hijabi Ninjas.
The reason why I've started designing this character is that actually I really like drawing things, but when I become Muslim, I stopped drawing because my friend told me that there was really like a clear hadith like criticizing like a drawing like a human figure.
Yeah.
And I believe it was a haram. Still, I think this is really controversial. So then I stopped doing for at least like 8 years or at least like 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But there was the TV series, there was TV series, and in that TV series was made by Disney's actually, and there was like Muslim characters.
Yeah.
And Disney advertised that this is like first like Muslim character in their series, and I watched the TV series, and it was not bad. Actually, I really enjoyed it. But still, I got some like hidden messages behind it. Like those like modern entertainment, especially Western entertainment, like even though they create like Muslim characters, like fictional Muslim characters, like they are trying to reduce like Muslimness into kind of like ethnic identities.
Yeah.
They're trying to put this character into identity politics again, which I repeated mentioning this word, like identity politics.
Yeah.
And even overall, now the Western entertainment, they always talk about diversities. They always talk about the like equalities of humanities. But have you ever seen like really cool like Muslim like main character in the fictional works?
Ertugrul is the best it got.
Yeah, Ertugrul. Yeah, the Turkish like entertainment is doing the same. But yet, like those characters, I also a big fan of Ertugrul. But they also try to prove something. Like they're always trying to prove that Muslims are great, Muslims are cool, and there's no like the area of the contemplation about Muslimness. So and also like have you seen any like cool hijabi characters? Like almost like zero.
Yeah.
Like when they depict like in Muslim in the hijabi Muslim, they always talk about they are like female Muslims who are suffering for the pressure from the like paternalistic societies, who are trying to seek for the liberty. But it's really difficult. There's the kind of like negative image, and it makes us so tired of watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why and especially and even in Japan as well. Now we have like many like second generation and third generation Muslims, but since they're living in the non-Muslim countries, sometimes they're really scared of like wearing the hijabs, and even though they wear hijab and when they go to the schools, you have to encounter kind of like prejudice. Or something you get bullied, and imagine it. When they are practicing Islam, but then they're facing lots of challenges in the schools, especially in the public schools. And imagine what kind of emotion they have when they're going back to the home.
Yeah.
They feel so alone. They so helpless.
Yeah.
So, and when I hear that kind of stories, I started to think that I want to encourage, and we need to encourage our children. Not just like making ourselves happy. We need to invest on the next generation, as we need to encourage those young generations that saying that practicing Islam is cool. That being born as a Muslim is cool. They're beautiful. Practicing Islam is cool. So that's why I have a design. I started designing the cute hijabi characters, which is a complete like which doesn't exist in the Western like entertainment.
How are you going to translate this into a show?
Show? First, I need to draw manga, so I'm practicing myself. But it's really like a long step. But I think this is really important because I don't know what the I don't know what the context in America, but in the case of Japan, usually this the art or the entertainment field is like dominated by like liberals, and this liberal means like not really sincere about like tradition, and then and usually we especially the Muslim communities, the we conservatives, that we're a bit hesitant to enter this field, but because we are not showing our initiative in this field, so that's why there are some people who are using this like medium to like distort the image about Islam.
Yeah.
And I heard that for example, even this drawing human image, still this is controversial, but there are some like legal opinion that it is still permissible to write like 2D characters as long as it remain 2D. Like not as a statue.
That's the Maliki opinion, yeah. It would be just if it's the full body and it's 2D, it's makruh. If it's not full body and it's 2D, it's halal. If it's full body and 3-dimensional, it's forbidden.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that, and these are like an ideas like an akhaf line.
Yes. Yeah.
Like akhaf line. So it might be not like best example or the practicing best example of Islamic culture, but still we are facing like real toxic like visual image when we are like opening Netflix or like Disney Plus.
There needs to be an alternative for sure, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So then we Muslim, even though this is like a controversial area, like we conservative Muslims show initiative in this field.
Yeah.
But also since this is like a new field, not only about the art but in education, like in we Muslim community, we're not investing much on like education and also the art. But this anime is like a collective like a project. Like you have to hire like the hundreds or sometimes there are hundreds of people who make first of all the person to make write down the plot, or a person to like designing characters, or a person to make like animated make this animation. So it takes time. But right now I started writing the novel, like a novel.
Yeah.
So that we can use it as a script in a plot. And inshallah, once I finish, I want to find someone like a manga artist to like make to draw this character into like a manga. And if it becomes like successful, I want to make like an animated version as well, like story of the Muslim like a ninja. And by the way, the all Muslim character I have a design is the either second generation Muslims or the Muslim converts.
Yeah, I mean, I would start getting it out there, getting excitement, and then you have companies like Fictional Frontiers who would maybe know that world of production and get it out there, because it's a very, as you said, labor intensive, it's expensive, there's a lot of talent needed to put it together and a lot of money needed to fund it. But if you get it out there, you get the concept out there, you get the ball rolling.
Yes, in that regard, I think the Fictional Frontier is doing a great job. And right now, for example, and amid this, genocide of Israel, or what is committing. Now we are boycotting lots of products.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important. But boycotting something is also like not enough.
Yeah.
What we need is we need to produce something.
Yeah.
Like we need to create our own like ecosystem. Like not only that, we need to create our own like food. We need to create our own like books. We need to build our own universities. We need to build our own schools, and we even create our own character.
100%.
Like for example, we can criticize like fictional Muslim characters which are created or designed by like non-Muslim companies. But even like when we criticize, as long as we're criticizing, we just remain as like a consumer of the content.
That's true. You're an object of history.
Consuming this content. We're just giving our own resources toward criticizing. It just wastes time.
Yeah.
What is important that we need to show our creativity, and we need to show, for example, like I personally believe that my like hijabi ninja are like cooler than any other like a fictional Muslim character in this world.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I've been very regarding, but I have this kind of self-confidence.
Yeah.
Like, and what and also this is I'm not drawing for myself. I also like drawing, but I am investing on the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell them that being born as a Muslim is cool. Like converting Islam is cool. Like studying Nahu and Sarf is like cool. Pursuing the traditional like Islamic studies is cool. And this is what makes us different from the like modern like secular people. Because they are only like they confine themselves to identify to defining themselves in the world of identity politics. But what the Muslim can do is that we need to use our resources to encourage the young generation, because the Muslim community has the youngest the Muslim community is the youngest like Muslim community like in the Japanese societies. So what we have to do is that we have to work for the youth. And this is like philosophy of the futua. Futua. And futua means like youngness. But the youngness doesn't mean just being young. It means like you will acquire your spirituality to become like mature enough to like investing on the youth. So this is what the futua is. And this is what the spirituality of the Ihsan, the old.
Well, we'll be observing your projects. You have many projects in bringing Islam into the Japanese culture. And I hope we put in our 2 cents in trying to get your word out there about you and what you're doing. So Jazakallah khairan for all this information about what you're doing, and we're all with you. And there are a lot of comments here. Very happy with hearing about what you're doing here and putting out an anime, developing a character, and a lot of curiosity about your other dawah endeavors. So hopefully we will cross paths again, and I make dua for you. Allah gives you a lot of tawfiq in all of what you're doing. You got a lot on your shoulders. There's not a lot of support in the Japanese dawah scene, but may Allah Ta'ala give you tawfiq and bless your work. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Speaking of dawah and Islam entering in places, while we were watching this, someone said to me, before you log off for the day, you got to watch this little clip on churches becoming mosques. Not in Japan, I think it's in America, but piggybacking off of what Professor Yamamoto was talking about, his experience in Japan and with Japanese Muslims. So I'm going to listen to this. We're going to listen to this, but I hope he's not going to be cursing in here. So let's see. This is Jeremy McClellan, an Irish comedian. Generally has good attitude towards Muslims, but all right, let's see what he's saying here. Hopefully the internet isn't too slow and we could hear it. All right, it's buffering and it's 2 minutes long, so we'll see. In the meantime, all right, this is buffering. I don't know if it's going to take a long time. What constitutes waste of time according to the Maliki school, says Adam. I believe that is urfi. But then again, we do have definitions for lahu and la'ib. La'ib is that which has no purpose in itself, but has a purpose for something else. And you could call most sports as la'ib, where in itself there is no value, no meaning to kicking a ball in a net or shooting a ball through a hoop. But there is a lot of the other benefits, namely friendship, exercise, teamwork. Then there's lahu, has no benefit in itself, nor does it have a secondary benefit. And that's like, for example, a lot of card games with dice, board games. There's no real benefit in itself, nor secondary benefit, unless you really try to stretch it out, like really play mental gymnastics to show how it's beneficial. Most video games, I would probably say, are lahu, not la'ib. So if someone plays basketball for an hour every day and another plays video games for an hour every day, one of them is going to come out healthy, one of them is going to come out unhealthy, right? So that's the difference between la'ib and lahu. That's not like That's the breakdown that I like the most, that I saw, that I liked the most, between playing and just wasting time. And playing is forbidden when it obstructs what's more important than it. Lahu is forbidden or discouraged, absolutely. Complete waste of time is discouraged or forbidden, absolutely. All right, this video is not coming up because the internet, I guess it's too slow here. But in any event, let's we're gonna wrap up right now. Jazakumullahu khairan, everybody. We will be back tomorrow with tomorrow's guest as a guest, not as a host, Paul Williams from Blogging Theology. Thank you all very much. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr inna al-insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Kalbe şifa